Iran says it has reached an agreement with Oman on a proposed shipping route through the Strait of Hormuz. It is a potential step toward the reopening of the waterway for energy supplies, according to the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson. A joint statement from Tehran and Muscat is under review and in the final drafting stage. Meanwhile, Brent crude is holding recent losses and remains just under $80 a barrel as traders monitor the diplomatic efforts. For more, our Middle East correspondent Abeer Omar joins us now. Abeer, the latest.
Good morning, Hislinda. Well, you just said it right. We are waiting for that draft statement that is joined between Iran and Oman. Our understanding is that they've reached an agreement on temporarily opening up the Strait of Hormuz. Now, how that mechanism would work, we still have to wait for details. But what we understand preliminary is that outbound ships in the Strait of Hormuz would go through the northern part of the strait, so closest to the Omani border, and then ships that are going out of the Strait of Hormuz would have to go through the Omani border side or the southern part of the Strait of Hormuz. We have reported multiple times, Hislinda, that the two countries have been in discussions over the past 10 days or so to find a mechanism that would open up the Strait of Hormuz and really just manage to get a trickle of movement through the waterway, much needed trickle of movement, especially with everything that's happening in the region, especially in the Red Sea, that's been under aggression from the Yemen-based Houthis over the past month or so. Now, what we know from the Foreign Ministry, the spokesperson Baqai, what he said is that the negotiations are forward moving. The deal is struck if certain third parties do not obstruct this process, obviously referring to the United States in his statement. He also said that Washington was not involved in those negotiations. We heard from President Trump yesterday on that tarmac in LA, Hislinda. He was saying that a deal is imminent, that we'll hear more in the next 48 hours. That seems to be true, though Washington's involvement in these talks is not clear for the time being. And just to wrap this whole thing up, we're talking about the Strait of Hormuz, right? We're not talking about formal talks for the time being. We're not talking about any of the other concessions, namely the nuclear component. We're merely talking about a mechanism that would open up the Strait of Hormuz and get energy flows to the rest of the world. Any of the other concessions that were reached in Switzerland back in June are pretty much out of the window for now. We know that Qatar is mediating a restart to those negotiations, but nothing is clear on when or where those would take place.
We did hear, though, from Vice President J.D. Vance saying that rivalries within Iran itself is, in fact, hindering negotiations. What do we know about that? What are the prospects then?
That is a very good question, and something that I thought was also interesting is that we reported that the president in Iran, Pezeshkian, had a televised statement yesterday, and he was saying this, Haslinda, and I quote him, he said that Iran is facing the most difficult time since the Islamic Revolution back in the 70s or late 70s. He also added that reaching the supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei, is a very difficult task right now. So really, this alludes, or this gets to show you just how difficult it is within the echelons of power in Iran itself. But something to bear in mind is that, according to our own reporting and the negotiations that have been taking place over the past few months or so, a few names come to mind, or few names are on the table. That is the president, the foreign minister, the spokespeople, and people from the IRGC as well that have been on top of those negotiations. So Iran has always maintained this single front to the negotiations. It's always tried, or the officials there have always tried to present a unified front to the world. But J.D. Vance, as you have mentioned, has said that those rivalries or those differences in power are hindering the wider talks. And this is a little bit present in the president's remarks yesterday. So maybe some truth to that.